Tonight we'll be looking at agriculture, green economy, and the sustainable wealth. And to discuss this with us tonight, we have two panelists. And our first panelist is Blessila Na-afoe Kandoh. She's a gender justice and safeguarding specialist from Ghana with over a decade of experience advancing gender equality, women's rights, youth empowerment, and inclusive development across community, national, and regional levels. With academic training in community nutrition and development management, she brings an interdisciplinary perspective to the intersection of food systems, gender, public health, sustainable livelihood, and social justice. Her work focuses on strengthening institutions, influencing policy, building the capacity of women's rights and youth-led organizations, and creating pathways for women and young people to participate meaningfully in development. Blessila currently serves as gender and capacity development specialist at Plan International Ghana, where she supports organizational strengthening, gender integration, safeguarding, and leadership development. Please can we put our hands together for Mrs. Blessila. Next to discuss this with us is Ambassador Onoja. Ambassador Onoja is a scholar, civil rights activist, development consultant, public affairs analyst, and a pastor. He is the youth leader of Prominence, Peace and Conflicts. Okay, he's the youth leader of Prominence. He holds a diploma in petroleum and gas processing engineering from the Petroleum Institute, EFURON, first degree in economics from Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, and a master's degree in international affairs and strategic studies from the Nigerian Defense Academy, Kaduna. He also holds a master's degree in economics from the Federal University of Lafayette in Nasarawa. Mr. Onoja has over 2.5 decades of quality experience in democracy, electoral processes, development, regional integration, capacity building, research and consultancy. He is currently the president and executive director of the Next Generation Youth Initiative International and the principal consultant for FUTAC Consultancy Limited. Please can we put our hands to welcome Mr. Onoja. We move straight into the discussion for the day. Why is agriculture still undervalued despite its massive potential, and how can young people make agriculture profitable and attractive?
Thank you so much. And before I start, I want to say good evening from Ghana. And thank you all for joining. And thank you for also having me here to contribute my little bit of knowledge to this conversation. And when you asked me the question, I found myself thinking about another question. I don't know how it is in Nigeria, but in Ghana, we have the saying that we like answering questions with another question. So, and that is exactly what I'm about to do here, because when we talk about how we can add value to agriculture and why young people can find it attractive, I start to think of a question that, okay, when we say young people do not find agriculture attractive, what exactly are we asking them to be attracted to? When you want someone to be attracted to something, it must look presentable, right? It must draw them in. And I think that sometimes we are very quick to say that young people don't want to go into agriculture, and maybe we need to look beyond that and look at what are we really presenting to young people. How attractive are we making agriculture look and seem to young people? So let me give this scenario. For instance, imagine as young people, I personally got that experience, and I know that a lot of young people probably had the same experience. You grew up watching either your father or your uncle or your grandmother or grandfather who was a farmer, and you see how much energy they have to pour into, the farm work, how hard this work is. And at the end of the day, you look at what they get, and it's not very encouraging if you want to match it to the hard work they put, because they have to depend on rainfall. Sometimes harvest is good, Sometimes it's not so good. Sometimes even when they have good harvest, they are not able to sell, and the produce are, getting rotten and then getting spoiled, and they have to throw it away. Then at the end of the day, they still struggle financially. So imagine telling a young person who has seen that experience that, okay, agriculture is the future, is the way to go. So we want you to pursue agriculture. What exactly do we want them to think? And knowing our young people of today, excuse my Gen Zs, we know our Gen Zs don't like stress. So imagine you asking them to go into agriculture, and the picture they have of agriculture is what they have seen from their families or in their communities, and it looks stressful. And for me, way back when I was in senior high school, most of the time when you found people working in our farms or doing anything related to agriculture, it was more of like a punishment. When people had committed something and they wanted to punish them, they'll say, oh, go and let them do some work, or go and let them weed. So young people grew up having that perception that agriculture is suffering, is hard work, is punishment. So maybe we need to look at the kind of image we are painting when we talk about agriculture, but maybe not just the image as well. We need to look at the kind of systems that are available, because if we want young people to see agriculture differently, we need to look at the image, we need to repaint the image of agriculture, and we need to also work on the kind of systems that are available. And that is how we can begin with, because agriculture is bigger than farming. It's a whole value chain, right? There's production, which a lot of us have, first-hand experience with. There's also processing, there's packaging, there's storage, there's transportation, there's marketing, there's technology, even agriculture, finance, food business, input, supply, digital platforms, renewable energy, a whole lot of things. So it's a whole big value chain. And that is where the conversation becomes exciting for young people, because as a young person, I need to know that I don't necessarily have to go and hold a hoe and cutlass before I can build wealth from agriculture. Or I don't need to have like 10 acres of land before I can build wealth from agriculture. I can look at any aspect of this value chain and say, okay, where do I see a problem and what can I solve that would bring wealth to me, that will bring income to me? And maybe it's that the community is producing, a particular community is producing tomatoes, and it goes to waste because they don't even know how to process it, and they don't have storage mechanisms. And what can I do as a young person to add value to it? Or how can I add value to a product so that it doesn't become waste? Or even the one that is getting spoiled on the farm, can we turn that waste into something meaningful that can go into another useful product? So making agriculture attractive will not just be about helping young people see agriculture in a different light, but they need to see it as a whole ecosystem of opportunities. And because today's conversation, we are talking about young people and also women, and from my profile, I work with a lot of women and youth, and I always want to see them empowered and thrive. I think we need to also go one step further. It's very easy for us to tell young people, oh, there are opportunities of agriculture, and take advantage of them. But then when we come to the realities, especially in this part of our world, there are certain questions we need to ask. Do young people and women have equal access to some of those opportunities that are there? Who owns the land? Who has collateral if you need to go for, financial access? Who has access to technology, who receives information, who has the network that can connect them to the bigger markets. And for women in particular, I would always ask, who has the time? Because if a woman is responsible for childcare, she's responsible for cooking, for fetching water, for caring for the whole household and all the responsibilities that come with it. Even when there is an economic opportunity, she may be willing but not have the time to take advantage of it. And even in some instances, when they make the money, both women and young people, there's another question of, do they get the opportunity to decide what to do with the money? And so it's not about just helping young people and women to, understand that they can earn income, but it's more also about agency. What kind of support are we giving to them? The ownership, the ability to make decisions and have access to productive resources. Because at the end of the day, we want them to be able to make decisions about their lives with the income they are getting. and not working hard and not being able to do that. I mean, that would even not encourage young people to go into it. And this is something I've been thinking about a lot because last year I had the opportunity to be at the West African regional engagements around the FAO voluntary guidelines on gender equality and women and girls empowerment in the context of food security and nutrition. And there was one thing that kept coming up across all the conversations, how important it is to look beyond women's participation and ask whether women are really benefiting when it comes to the agricultural value chain. Because a woman can actually participate in agriculture from her early 20s right to when she's an old woman. She can plant, she can harvest, she can process, she can sell. She would feed her household with all the food, but at the end of the day, she will still remain poor. And the questions there are, does she actually own the land? Is she able to access finance? Does she have access to technology? Is she represented where decisions are being made that actually impact the farming she's doing? Does she control the income? So getting young people and women to participate may not be the only measure of empowerment, but we need to ensure that they have the agency. And that is why sometimes as we encourage young people to take up agriculture, we tell them it is good and all that. They need more than encouragement. They need access to finance. They need training. They need skills. And a lot of times, sometimes we train the young people, we give them the skills, and we leave them there. We leave them hanging. So a lot of them are not able to do much with it, but they need skills and they need financing to be able to actually utilize these skills in the agriculture value chain. They need business and entrepreneurial skills because a young person who has the knowledge or the skills to process a product and not let it go to waste doesn't end there. They need the skills on how to market that product so that people see value in that processed product and actually buy it. They need skills on how to create networks and create access to a lot more financial opportunities and a lot of markets, and all that. And that is why I like the thinking behind this conversation of women and youth financial empowerment and the program that you are running. Because, like I said earlier, training is important, but what happens after the training? And I know if we have people that are interested in M&E, that they always ask that question. Okay, you've trained 100 young people, and so what? M&E people will always ask you that question because after the training, can the young person start a business? Can they join a cooperative where they can have access to finance? Can they have access to finance from a multi-finance company, from a bank or a rural bank? Can they find employment? Can they access markets, not even within Nigeria or Ghana, but across Africa and even globally? And what has changed in their lives because they participated? And so I think that is where green economy also gives us the opportunity to completely rethink what agriculture can look like for young people. Because simply when we talk about green economy, we are asking, how do we create jobs, businesses, wealth, while protecting the natural resources and the environments that our livelihoods depend on? And for agriculture, that opens a whole new range of possibilities. So let's think about a young entrepreneur who is providing solar powered irrigation technology to farmers, or another person that says that, look, I want to develop a cold storage solution so that when farmers have their produce, they can keep them there. It still keeps fresh and it doesn't go to waste. Or someone who says that, okay, we have the agricultural waste, but we can turn it into animal feed, or we can turn it to compost. And some are even turning them into other products like coal and other reusable energy materials as well. And so there are a lot of opportunities in climate smart agriculture, renewable energy, for food processing, sustainable packaging, water management, and a lot of things that can help us reduce waste and also conserve our environment. And that makes agriculture begin to look different for young people. It looks innovative. And I know my young people, they like innovation. They don't like what they have been seeing over the years with our grandfathers and our fathers doing agriculture. They like all these new things that are coming with agriculture. Then it begins to make it attractive for them because young people like innovating. They like technology. We are in a technological era. If you want young people to do things, you have to hook it to, technology. And young people have a lot of smart ideas on how to solve problems. So maybe those are the things that, we are missing. And maybe we shouldn't just be thinking about how young people can fit into the agriculture that we've always known. Maybe we need to be willing to rebrand what agriculture is and what it means and create the necessary conditions so that we can reimagine agriculture and young people would I mean they would start to go towards agriculture. We wouldn't want to be telling them, okay, agriculture is attractive, but young people will be running towards agriculture. So for me, I feel that we need to continuously create those opportunities because the young people we have today are very smart, they are very innovative, and they need that bridge to be able to look at the agricultural value chain in all these different aspects to say that, okay, I see a problem here. Okay, I think I can build a solution. I can do this. Maybe this can become a business and it can even create jobs for other people. Can it create wealth for me? And for me, I think when we get to that point, that is where green economy will become really exciting for young people. But it also brings us back to the conversation of gender and inclusion. And forgive me because you know that I'm a gender person, so I would always want to, come back to gender because as all these new opportunities are emerging, we will still want to understand who has access to them because we can still build a greener economy, but it can still reproduce the inequalities we already have. And so if green financing requires collateral that a lot of young women do not have, it means that they are getting left behind. If new agricultural technologies are too expensive for young people, it means that we are leaving young people behind as well. And if the training opportunities and digital opportunities don't reach young people in the rural areas or persons with disability because they are not assistive enough to adapt to the needs of persons with disability, then it means that we are also leaving some people behind. So for me, I think that the whole conversation around green economy gives us two opportunities at once. It gives us the opportunity to rethink how we produce, consume, and create wealth in ways that are environmentally sustainable. But it also gives us the opportunity to rethink who gets to participate, who gets to own, who gets to lead, and who gets to benefit, because we shouldn't carry our old inequalities in how we imagine agriculture into this new economy we want to build. And if green economy is going to become part of Africa's future, women and young people should not just participate, they should be a core central point of it, because we know the youth is like the increasing population and the workforce that we have, and so they should have the opportunity to design it. They should have the opportunity to own businesses in it. They should have the opportunity to lead it, and they should have the opportunity to build wealth from it so that it is valuable to them. And so at the end of the day, they are contributing to stronger food systems, and they feel part of the process, and they feel valued. So for me, I think that, as I've been saying the whole time, if we want young people to see agriculture differently, we need to build agriculture systems that are worth, seeing differently by young people, where innovation is possible, where a young person can identify a problem. And in Ghana, they always say that the Gen Zs, they are in a hurry for success. That is not bad. That is not bad at all. I think that it's not bad that young people are hungry for success. And so we need them to have that, fertile ground where they can quickly use all the ideas to get the success they want within the agricultural ecosystem. And that is what is going to make it more attractive for them. Because at the end of the day, if we want to feed our nations, the majority of our population is young people. And we need them to be the ones that will produce, to process, to bring the innovations and build wealth from feeding our nations. So I will pause here so that we can continue the conversation, and I will come in if there are any other questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Ma. Let me give you a round of applause. You did so well, Ma, and I really appreciate you so much. Well, and Ambassador dropped something on the chat box. He said, "Great and amazing brilliance by Blessila. I drop my cap for you. Thanks and well done. Well done, Ma. I really appreciate you. And from what you said, I was able to draw some points from it, and crossing them together, I came to realize that agriculture in itself isn't just farming. And when we stop doing it as just farming, it becomes interesting. It's a whole lot of ecosystem, and a whole lot of things, down to the fashion industry. It's affected by the agriculture, the planting of cotton, the processing and everything. Everything, can I just say, humanity revolves around agriculture. And if we can get this, that's a lot for us. And going forward, we come to see that inclusion is also something that is necessary and important. That we look at gender inclusion, we look at every form of inclusion, even those with disability, they should also be carried along. Thank you so very much, Ma. What role does sustainability play in long-term wealth creation, and what
Okay.
misconceptions stop women and youth from entering agribusiness?
Okay. What role does sustainability play in wealth creation? Okay. The two keywords there are sustainability and wealth creation. Let us start with wealth. What do we understand by wealth creation? We have wealth and we have creation. So it means wealth has to be created. That is one. Number two, what is wealth in itself? For me, I see wealth as an intentional, disciplined, and strategic process of building and accumulating assets and growing your net worth. What is your worth? Grow your net worth through a dynamic process of continuous saving and investment and the management of your portfolio on a long-term basis. On a long-term basis. So you grow your asset. The process of wealth building is a dynamic process. The whole world is dynamic. That was why agriculture was not responding to that dynamism. And that was where you saw Blessila justifying why youth and women are not interested in agriculture. Because the dynamism that the whole life process is about left agriculture behind in our own climb by how we practice and how we see it and how we engage it, how we interpret it, how we apply it. So it's a dynamic process. And that's one thing we have to note, dynamism, very, very important. Sustainability. Sustainability, the role it plays in wealth creation. Wealth creation, I did told you that is a continuous savings and investment process, is dynamic, and is a long term. In other words, that is a definition of sustainability on one hand. On the other hand, when you are talking about sustainability, you are talking about a process of a continuous reproduction or sustenance of a process, engaging a process, getting desired result that will tend to building, to adding value, creating value continuously without destroying or without jeopardizing the opportunity for others to create the same wealth without harming the asset that you are using to generate that wealth. In other words, you are creating wealth and you will not jeopardize the opportunity for other generations that will come to create wealth. Take for example, you see mining across Nigeria, across West Africa. It is not a sustainable way of mining. In fact, one of the biggest problems that we have as Africa is the way we engage resources and we manage resources. We manage resources in such a way that hinders sustainability, that makes us deplete resources without remediation. We deplete without any effort to restore, to give room. So today we have lost we have lost many species, both of plant, of animals. Many of them has gone into extinction. Why? Because we do not engage in sustainability practice. And that is one of the key issue. If you see responsible consumption and production is one of the goals for sustainable development, because the world saw it that we are missing out there. So sustainable wealth creation, sustainability plays a key role, is the anchor, is the brain box of wealth creation, because wealth creation is something that has to be sustained, has to be on a long-term basis. And the aim is to make life better, make life more meaningful, make life richer, create opportunity for people to be empowered, for people to live out the best of their dream and ability as God has given to them. So wealth creation, sustainability plays a very great role in wealth creation, because if it's not sustainable, your wealth creation process is not sustainable, it means it will not be wealth creation, because it will mean you falling wealth, it will mean tending to poverty until you continually begin to build on it. If you begin to suffer depletion, you cannot be said to be building wealth. If your assets are suffering depletion, you are tending back to poverty, you are tending to retrogression. So sustainability is about continuous improvement, sustaining a tempo of increasing the positive direction of wealth building, and living impact on the life of others. That is what it is. So sustainability is a very, very, very important, not only in wealth creation, but in how we consume and how we use resources, how we manage the resources that nature has given to us. The problem we have today about climate change is as a result of non-sustainability of the use of resources that we have in our ecosystem. Our farming method, the way we consume products, the way we handle waste, the way we deforest our forests, the way we handle the water, the river, and so many other resources that we have in nature. And that is why the impact was so much on the world that the idea of sustainable development came up. Because if it is not sustainable, one day we will be consumed by the danger of the unsustainability of these practices. So in the same way, wealth creation is a sustainable process. So without sustainability, you cannot say you are creating wealth. You can't say you are creating wealth. The misconception, if I want to look at that, because by the time I look at the treatise or the opening remarks by Blessila and the analysis she made, very coherent, very logical, very dynamic, very open, and it becomes I begin to tend to critique what I may have to offer. In any case, the misconception that the youth and women had, again, I'll draw on Blessila's analysis. It will not be their fault. It's a carryover of our culture and attitude towards agriculture, by approaching agriculture from the wrong perspective, by creating wrong narratives about agriculture. So the women and youth of today never got the true picture of what agriculture is. Take for example, one of the misconceptions about agriculture, basic and primary, is that they see agriculture as farming. as that rigorous, laborious, arduous work that has to be done by an individual and at the end of the day get little return. That was the picture, the perspectives that generation from generation and our current generation has handed over to the youth and women. So that is a myth. Agriculture is far much more than that. Agriculture is the father of all profession. And if you ask me, I will tell you. The so oil that we talk about, crude oil that we talk about, came from agriculture. As a matter of fact, is the this of plants and animal, the dead plants and animal that have decomposed over the years, over many years, is what crude oil is made of. And that is why it is purely hydrocarbon. The highest level of hydrogen and oxygen you can get only from plant and animals. So the source of petroleum came from agriculture. The clothes we wear came from agriculture. The pharmaceutical industry came from agriculture in medicine and pharmacy. The plastic industry came from agriculture because it's from the crude oil that you have byproducts that and some gases that are produced that you can polymerize to create plastic. The building architecture is broadly agriculture. The food, agriculture. So if you see virtually every profession has their root in agriculture, has a linkage to agriculture. So agriculture has a multiplier effect on the economy. And from agriculture today has extended to green economy. It has extended to climate change. Agriculture has made production of input. It has led to engineering fabrication of input and agricultural infrastructure. The production process, the packaging, the marketing, storage, and so many other aspects that agriculture is linked to. Is very, very diverse. The supply chain of agriculture is huge and enormous. And it is a money spinner. It is a money spinner. Agriculture is a money spinner. This reality has not been made known to women and the youth. What we repent about agriculture because of our disposition, the government disposition to agriculture, the disposition of our leaders, and the practice, the way we practice agriculture. We have created a false image of agriculture before the youth and the women. So their misconception is a carryover or is a heritage that is handed over to them. With their innocence, it was handed over to them. So they have seen agriculture as being associated with poverty. Yes, so much rigor that our parents put into agriculture, at the end of the day, they remain poor. Women spent all their time, they are the biggest farmer, they are the one feeding the nation. At the end of the day, they remain poor. So there is a misconception that agriculture is associated with poverty. Number two, agriculture is seen as a dirty profession. It is never seen as business. It is seen as an engagement of profession for the rurality. It is only for the rurality. The urban place doesn't have anything to do with agriculture. Those who are involved with agriculture, there are people who are in the rural places, who are in the grassroots, and their own duty is to go and farm and produce food for other people who are the better people in the higher ladder of society who have status. So the people who practice agriculture are seen as peasants of the society. That is another wrong conception. Or another one is that with this analysis and drawing on what Blessila say, you saw that they also have a concern that there's no money in agriculture. You cannot become wealthy, you can't become rich, or neither can you become famous through agriculture. So they see agriculture as a limiting profession, as a limiting vocation, as something that does not create opportunity, as restrictive. While agriculture is an amplifier, is the almighty formula for wealth creation. So this is another misconception that the youth and the women they have about agriculture. They also believe that is anybody who is in agriculture somebody that doesn't have any status. Society will look down on such person. Society does not have any respect for such people. They are the people at the lower table, at the grassroots. They are the people at the bottom of the pyramid. They are the people who don't have a say in the society. They are the people who are not popular. They are the people who are not relevant. They are the people who can't be called to table when decisions about issues that matter, even the food and agriculture that they very much practice, they are not called to the table to make their input or to be part of that decision. That is another misconception. And another one too, another misconception is the idea that agriculture have little or nothing to do with technology. They saw agriculture as purely things that people have to do with their labor, very laborious, very rigorous, very tasking, very arduous, that a man has to spend all his energy on from morning till night and have little to eat like an ant. They don't have an idea that the home to technological application is agriculture. That computer has a place in agriculture, that smart machine, that drone, that digital skills have space, ICT, the new innovation. When we are talking about innovation, agriculture is the hub for it. So they didn't give them this narrative. They didn't have this understanding. So they have this misconception. So with all this misconception, what do you think the youth and women should do? They get discouraged. And much more, agriculture is what feeds the entire world. Agriculture is the basis for our health. Blessila was just talking about nutrition. Agriculture is the hub that powers the economy of a nation. The human resource capital of the nation, the engine room is the food they eat that produce the energy for them to do the work they do. Agriculture is the basis and the foundation for it. Agriculture is a very big money spinner and nobody should deceive anybody. I want to give you this analogy. I will use FCT or maybe Benue, that is the food basket of Nigeria. I know that I understand that population of Benue is about 5 million people today. And today in Nigeria, the average money we spend on food, if you have to take breakfast, 5,000 cannot do breakfast in my family. We are just a family of 4, but 5,000 cannot give us breakfast. 5,000 cannot buy meat for lunch. 5,000 cannot cook stew for us. In the evening, the same. So if I were to be spending averagely 5,000 per meal, I'll be spending 15,000. And 15,000 today is just money for meat to cook only stew or soup. Nevertheless, I will come very conservatively to the fact that I will look at an average rate. How much does a person need for a plate of food in Nigeria today? And I will look at an average of 1,005 to get a plate of food. Average, conservatively. If you are talking about quality food, You'll be talking of 10,000, 8,000. I ate food somewhere, they gave me a bill of 16,000, and I wanted to be asking. I kept my peace, but I'll look at 1,005. So if you have to pay 1,005 for your breakfast, you pay 1,005 for your lunch, you pay 1,005 for your dinner. In a day, an average person spends 4,500. Am I right? 4,500 for food. Now, with Benue with a population of 5 million, how much do you think Benue will spend in a day on food? And I want to tell you that with a population of 5 million people, Benue State will be spending 22.5 billion naira, 22.5 billion naira daily. 22.5 billion naira daily for food. Take Abuja FCT, which has a population of above 6 million. They will be spending 27 billion naira daily on food. On food. If you enter agriculture, you look at the agricultural chain, you come to restaurant business to be cooking food and selling. Out of this 22 billion, 22.5 billion that passes every day in Benue on food, how much will you get out of that money? It's a huge amount of money every day. I'm not talking of monthly. So you will see that a huge amount of money. I'm looking at only the restaurant business, so one of the chain in agriculture and all sorts of agriculture. If you are talking of Nigeria, that is about 235 million population, you are talking about of 1.057 trillion naira every day that is spent on the food that people eat. This is a very conservative amount I've given to you. Market. So the agriculture is a money spinner. People have to look well and stop being lazy and stop hanging out and stop playing and giving excuse and get serious and look for one of the area in the agricultural chain where you will plug yourself and continue to do what you do and try to do the best of it. You will see that you will blow. I think they like to hear the word blow. So this misconception, like I said, is a function of how the people who have gone before us, who have come before us, have brought this culture to our people. So there's a need for us, or our task, youth and women, is that you have to move fast to engage in research, to engage in knowledge development. Whatever I want to do, pursue knowledge around it. Pursue knowledge around it. Agriculture is so deep that if you go into it, it will swallow you. It is overwhelming. Agriculture is as deep and as big as the Indian Ocean. And wet, any level of wet you want, you arrange yourself, you will make it there. It's a good place to exploit. And I want to encourage women and youth not to be discouraged, because if we want to wait for our government, we want to wait for our leader, we are all seeing the trajectory our leadership is going today. They don't pay attention to this thing. Well, leadership is no longer for public interest. It's about individual interest. That is the way our leaders have gone. The youth have to think. They have to think and rethink and rethink. The world belongs to them. They are the greatest stakeholder in our society. And the buck, it rests on their table. This passing generation of our leaders and elders, some of them may not live for the next 20 years or 10 years, but the next 15 or 20 years is when some of you will start your real life. So there is a need for you to focus on developing yourself.
Thank you for the insights you've given to us. Thank you, Miss Blessila. I really appreciate every one of you. Your coming here has really enlightened us, and it has helped me to see that agriculture is really wild and it's the way to go, actually. And very honest, it's the way to go. You know, when we look at other nations, like even the US also, you can see that they really depend on agriculture. When you study them, you look at it's even the farmers that are sponsoring the politicians, and that's a lot. And we Africa, we claim Mother Africa, and we are not producing, we are not leveling up. So I thank you so much for coming to tonight's meeting to enlighten us. And I would like to give each and every one of you 5 minutes for your final remark and your final word, what you want us to note from tonight's meeting. Please, Ms. Blessila, the mic is yours.
I want to say thank you very much to all of you. I think this has been a rich conversation. Listening to Ambassador as well and the different perspective he shared. One thing that is very evident is that we know that agriculture has enormous potential. However, there's a lot of misconceptions around agriculture, like Ambassador said, and like I earlier said, the kind of image that agriculture has been painted to young people. How attractive are we making agriculture looking to young people? And so it's not only the fact that we have to create the right conditions for women and girls, but we also have to expand opportunities within the agriculture ecosystem so that they can actually benefit from every aspect of the ecosystem. Because, like I said earlier, we can encourage young people to take up agriculture, but this is not a motivational talk. If they don't have access to finance, they don't have access to land, they don't have access to technology or markets, they are not going to be sustained by our talks. That is what is actually going to sustain them. If we train women, and just like Ambassador said, and we still have social norms around them, that is limiting their time, their ability to move, ownership, and decision making, they will still not be economically empowered. And yes, we can talk about green economy and all the opportunities that it presents. But again, if we are not deliberate about inclusion, then we are also creating a world where we are carrying the inequalities we are currently facing in the agriculture ecosystem into the economy tomorrow. So I think for me, the challenge for all of us here today on the call is how do we get more women and young people into agriculture, not just by talking to them and telling them it is attractive, but then by looking at what needs to change so that when they enter, they can succeed, they can lead, and they can build wealth, and they will really want to stay in that agriculture we want them to be. And so the responsibility there, it's not for young people and women and alone. We all have a role. Governments have a role to play in creating enabling policies and infrastructure. Financial institutions also need to rethink how women and young people access capital, especially when traditional collateral requirements can exclude a lot of them. Development organizations also need to connect trainings to real economic opportunities and stop counting the numbers as the end result. Because, like I said, MAE always ask, and so what after the training, and so what? So we need to look beyond just providing training opportunities, but also providing access to finance, access to capital, access to equipment, to input, to technology to be able to scale up. And of course, the private sector also has a role to play in opening markets, the value chain, and opportunities for innovation. And for all of us, even at the community and the family level, we still have a role to play because of some of the barriers that we've been discussing today. We know that they are all deep rooted in our social norms. And so we need to be able to also shift some of those norms. And for our young people too, you also have a role to play. So if you're a young person and you're on the call, I want to encourage you to look beyond the traditional picture of agriculture. I've talked about it. Ambassador spent a lot of time to talk about it as well. And I'm challenging you to look beyond it and ask yourself, what problem can I solve? Where is food being lost? Where is value being lost? Where are farmers struggling? Where can we bring in technology to make things better? And where can something that is currently seen as waste be turned into a product? Where can I create a service, a business, or a job that can employ other people? Because sometimes what we currently see as problems also have opportunities that are sitting inside them. And so at the end of the day, we need to always remember, like Ambassador said, agriculture goes beyond farming, it goes beyond food production. It also goes on to touch on livelihoods, about nutrition, health, climate resilience, and communities. And it's also about innovation, entrepreneurship, and wealth creation. And Ambassador talked a lot about that. So, if we truly want agriculture to feed all of us and build wealth sustainably, which I know our young people want, because as our ambassador said, our young people want to blow, right? Then we need to all play our role to build the systems where young people can be the center of agriculture and not just providing labor. Young people must become owners. They must become innovators. They must be at the decision making table, and they must also be beneficiaries of the world that is being created today. Because at the end of the day, we want young people to build it, they should own it, and they should also benefit from it. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. Much love from Ghana to all of you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Blessila. Again, uh, you have scored another A. In addition to what our dear sister Blessila has said, indeed, living according to her name, she has blessed me, has enriched my knowledge tonight in this discourse. My takeaway, as a matter of fact, we must not lose the sense of the power of the citizen. The power of the citizen is the greatest power. That power is bigger than the power of any government, is bigger than the power of any machine gun, is bigger, is next to the power of God. So as citizens, we must utilize that power. The power to make change in our society. The power to be part of the decision of who governs us, how we are governed, and the policies and programs of government. Why am I saying this? That is the root and the beginning point of making desired change. Because if the barriers in agriculture are not tackled, they are not systematically tackled, they are not structurally tackled. And in tackling this, all the stakeholders must be brought into the arrangement. If they are not tackled, then we may still remain at where we are. We may not be able to shift the mindset of the youth and women about agriculture. Even if the tendency to shift their mind is there, their ability, the capacity, the momentum they need to plunge themselves into agriculture will not be there. If they don't have access to land, if they don't have access to finance, if they don't have access to input, if they don't have access to agricultural infrastructure, if they don't have access to fertilizer, if they don't have access to water or irrigation, if they don't have access to the resources that supposed to be used for their empowerment, it will remain a joke. Therefore, there's a need even from JUWACI policy paper on this discourse we are holding in the area of policy changes, policy advocacy should go to the government. It has to go to the government. That these are critical area. We can unleash the power of the people. We can uncap our economy to begin to flourish, to become a boom all of a sudden. I can tell you that we have resources, our government have resources to provide all these things. But rather, they want the resources to go to their private pocket. They want to come and tell us lie. They want to deceive you. And very unfortunately, youth are vulnerable to this deception. At the end of the day, it is still the youth that will go and be voting for the wrong people. So you must be part of the civic process of causing change, to vote for the right people that you know can create change, people that can give account to you, people that you can hold accountable is very, very important. Why? Because the government is a very big umpire. Not only that it has the resources, the government is the only person that have the power of coercion, the authority of the government. Is it over land, over every asset of the state, over the commonwealth? So it's very, very important that you should not allow anybody, and women, don't allow anybody to deceive you with salt, with a cup of rice, with 2,000, with a Maggi. At the end of the day, you go and vote for the wrong person. We all know what we are in now, so we don't need to educate anybody. So you must participate in the process and use your vote very wisely. Number two, your destiny. You have responsibility for your destiny. You have responsibility for your destiny. You are accountable for your life. The primary duty you have is to make your life work out. Is for you to pursue your goal. Is for you to be resilient, for you to persevere in whatever you have set for yourself as a vision. Don't allow anything to stop you. In this wise, you have to carefully look at the agricultural value chain, ask questions, find mentors, seek knowledge, do research, and plug yourself in an area that you want to engage in, and build your capacity and specialize there, and render your service and continue to improve. Innovation is the key to success. So as you innovate, I can assure you it will not take your time before you blow. You will be creating value. If you create value, people will look for you. Even from Alaska, from Canada, from Sweden, from Norway, if you create the right value, people will look for you. So sit down and hold God, and then research knowledge, pursue, and seek the way you can improve whatever you are doing every day. Thank God for the internet. It's a source where you can get any kind of language. You can learn anything on YouTube and or many other places. AI is there to help you in so many things. So please build your capacity. Then again, I'll come back to this thing. There's a need for us to engage the private sector, like this kind of webinar we are having. There's a need to engage private sector. Maybe we write a letter to Liver Brothers about this. We are having such webinar for men and women today, this and that. Okay, Dangote Foundation next time. This is a seminar we are holding for women and youth on agriculture, this and this. You are in the food sector, you produce sugar, you produce salt, you produce this, is linked. How do we empower? So in that wise, we begin to draw in the private sector, and some of them begin to play their role. You may be surprised at the end of such lecture. Some of them may say, okay, our organization today will set out 100 million to help women and the youth to fund agriculture. You will be surprised. It is possible. Anything imaginable is possible. We are living in a world where anything is possible. In my own world, I believe anything thinkable is possible. So we have to continue to engage. We have to continue to push ourselves. We must not surrender on the platform of excuse, on the platform of limitation, on the platform of a problem. The purpose of your life is to solve problem. And it's only when problem come that you can make money. Without problem, you cannot create value. When there is a problem and you find the answer to the problem, money will answer to you. I want to thank every one of us for this opportunity. We will continue the engagement. The issues we have to discuss is not exhaustive, and I pray that God help us. Use your time very wisely. Don't go gossiping, WhatsApping, forwarding message here and there. Anything that does not add value to you, even a friend that's not adding value to you, drop that friend and look for another person. Always engage in what will add value to you. Every 1 hour you spend each day, ask, what have you learned? What have you added to your life? Because a minute gone is your life gone. Every second that is away is a wastage of your life. But there's a way you can waste your life profitably, by making sure that you are racing with time as the time is going, so you are improving yourself and you are seeing a better version of yourself. I want to thank God. I want to thank JUWACI for the privilege, and I want to thank Blessila for the opportunity to meet her tonight. Ajay Samuel and everyone in this meeting, I thank you and I say have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Mrs. Blessila. Thank you for honoring our invitation. Thank you for your presence. We really appreciate you for being here. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. I think my final takeaway from Blessila is that all our programs, we should ensure that our outcome, our activity, and our outputs are well measured using the M&E, ensuring that we're not just empowering women, but also we are mentoring them, guiding them till they achieve what we are set to achieve. And from Mr. Ambassador, thank you so much for your counsel, your advice. They really mean a lot to us. Once
Thank you very much, Sam, for your wonderful moderation. Thank you so much, Ambassador. We're blessed to have you, always blessing us with your words. This is Blessila. This is the first time I'm meeting you, but it's so wonderful and enriching. Thank you so much for coming through all the way from Ghana. And this is the Jolly Brahma Women and Children Initiative. Next time you'll be here, Mrs. Blessila, it will be wonderful. And we have a very, very full room and connected and educative and engaging. But it was all good today. So what it's all our takeaway is agriculture is not just about farming. It's engaging, it's all about humanity, and all we should do is to engage in it and see ways where we can actually fit in and be able to make a meaningful stuff for ourselves out of which part of the agriculture we find ourselves. And Ambassador, thank you very much for the words of encouragement, for letting us know that every minute or hour being spent without learning or adding value to ourselves, it's a waste. And I will take that by saving some friends and activities around me that are not adding value, not so much value. Some are adding not so much value, or educating, or making me go further to save them and see how life goes better. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Miss Vero. Thank you, Miss Guemo. And some persons were joining, but because of network, it keeps pushing them out. And for us who are here, I appreciate all of us. And I thank you so much. Ms. Blessila will be accessing. We'll see you on the last Saturday of every month. We do have our Victoria show, which is Voices Against every form of violence against persons. And we do that show every last Saturday of the month, talking about gender-based violence and violence against persons, and seeing how we can curb these activities around us in our communities, homes, workplaces, and everywhere around us to see that women and girls are safe, and even men, because it's again violence against persons. So we will be blessed to have you by the end of the last Saturday of this month, and to invite our family and friends